Hi girls, I hope you're all okay. So today in the lesson I set you some work on what we call a one-step equation because we just take one step to solve it. Okay, so today we're going to move on to looking at two-step equations because we need two steps to solve it. Okay, so if we've got 7x minus 12 equals 51, the way I want us to think about how we solve it is what we need to do is what we would normally do for BODMAS. We need to try and think about inversing the operation, so doing BODMAS in the opposite direction. So if we look here, remember that 7x means 7 times x, okay? So we've got multiplication and a subtraction. If we look, what we need to do is we need to get rid of the subtraction before we think about doing the opposite of the multiplication, okay? So if we look here, the first thing we want to do is we want to deal with the minus 12. So what we do is we do the opposite to minus 12, okay? So what we do is the opposite of minus 12 is to add 12. And if we add 12 to this side of the equation, so like if the equals is in the middle, we also have to make sure we add 12 to this side of the equation. Now on this side of the equation, this 7x minus 12, the minus 12 and the plus 12 cancel each other out because minus 12 add 12 is 0. So we're just left with 7x. And on this side, if we do 51 plus 12, we get 63. So that's our first step. Now what we need to do is think about our second step. So we know 7x means 7 times x. So now we do the opposite of multiplying, so we divide. So the opposite of timesing by 7, so that we get x on its own, is to divide by 7. So if we divide both sides by 7, 7x divided by 7 just leaves us with 1x, so we write x. And 63 divided by 7 leaves us with 9. So the answer is x equals 9. Okay, if I put that back in, it should work. So 7 times 9 is 63. 63 to 12 gives me 51. Okay, so let me just do another one with you now. Okay, so this time, say for example, I had 6x plus 1 equals, sorry, I'm just thinking, 22. Okay, so I'm trying to make my answer so it's not quite as nice. So 6x plus 1 equals 22. So again, if I think about doing BODMAS in reverse, okay, this time in this equation, I've got an addition and a multiplication. So I need to get rid of the addition before I get rid of the multiplication. So the opposite of adding is to subtract. So the opposite of adding 1 is to subtract 1. So I take away 1, and remember I have to do it from both sides. So here, positive 1 take away 1 cancels each other out, so I'm left with 6x. On the other side, 22 take 1 leaves us with 21. Okay, and now the opposite of multiplying, because 6x means 6 times x, the opposite of multiplying x is to divide, the opposite of multiplying by 6 is to divide by 6. So I divide both sides by 6, so I get x equals, and I can write 21 divided by 6. Okay, and there's a few different ways you can write that. So think about how many 6's go into 21. So 6, 12, 18. So you've got 3 whole ones that go in. 6, 12, 18 means there's 3 left over to get to 21. So you've got 3 and 3 out of 6, which is the same as 3.5. Okay, or if you were to do like your bus stop method, okay, you've got 6 into 21, put a point 0, okay, so 6 into 2 doesn't go, 6 into 21 goes 3 times, and there are 3 left over, and then 6 into 30 goes 5 times. So either 3.5 or 3.5 is the best way to write your answer, and you can do it anyway, okay? Right, one more, and actually maybe 2 more, I'm lying, okay? Right, so on the next one, I'm going to use one that's got a fraction and another operation in, okay? So say we had x divided by 5 take 4 equals minus 2. Okay, so on this side now I've got a division and a subtraction. So if you think about how to tackle your order of operations, I've got a subtraction and this time I've got a division, and again I want to deal with them in reverse. So the opposite of subtract is to first of all add. So the first thing I need to do is get rid of the subtract 4 by adding 4 to each side. Okay, so just be careful. Minus 4 plus 4 cancels each other out. So on this side I'm just left with x over 5, or x divided by 5. Watch your signs on this side. So minus 2, add 4. So you're starting at minus 2, you're going up by 4. So if you can picture that number line, so that will take you to 2. Okay? And then now I need to think, right, if I want to get x on its own, I need to get rid of the division. So the opposite of to dividing is to now times, like you were doing yesterday. Okay, so now we multiply each side by 5. Here, the divide by 5 and times by 5 cancels each other out, so it gives me x on its own. And 2 times 5 gives me 10. Okay, alright, so if I check it again, 10 divided by 5 is 2. 2 take 4 is minus 2. Okay, alright. Right, one more that I'm just going to go through, then you can have a go at some questions on your own, okay? So the next one, just look at how I'm writing it carefully, okay? Okay, so x take 4 all divided by 2 equals minus 5. Now this one is slightly different to the last one we did because the divide is underneath all of x minus 4, not just underneath the x. So if you think about this one carefully, what you've got here is it's like it's in a bracket, okay? So the first thing that we want to think about on our BODMAS in reverse is we can think about, right, we've got a division from the divide by 2, and then we've got our bracket to deal with. So the first thing we have to deal with here is getting rid of the division. So what's the opposite of dividing by 2? It's to times by 2. So the first thing we do here is get rid of any fractions. So we multiply both sides by 2. Here, the divide by 2 and times by 2 cancel each other out, so they always just leave us with whatever is on the top, okay? So we've left with x minus 4. On the other side, you've got minus 5 multiplied by 2. So minus 5 times positive 2, and minus times a positive is a negative, so we get minus 10, okay? I've took it outside the brackets because it's on its own now, so it doesn't need the brackets, all right? But now I can look at what was in the brackets, and now what was in the brackets was a minus 4, so now I add 4, okay? So if here I've got minus 4 and add 4 cancel each other out, so they just leave me with x, and then on the other side, minus 10, add 4, so think about you starting at minus 10, you're going up 4, we get x equals minus 6, okay? So if the division is underneath an expression, so like 2 terms, x and minus 4, the first thing we need to do is get rid of the division first, okay? If the division, so just let me go back to the other example, is just underneath one term, like an x or a 2x, we get that term on its own by getting rid of the minus 4 or the plus 4 first, okay? So just be really careful, all right, just be really careful in recognising, let me just move this a little bit so you can see, recognising when we get rid of the minus first and when we get rid of the divide first. So if it's over 2 terms, if 2 terms are over the denominator, always multiply to get rid of the fraction first. But if it's just one term like an x or even a 2x, just start by getting rid of the minus 4 first, okay? Right, so what I'm going to do is, like yesterday, is I'm going to give you some questions to do on a Google Doc, But what I really want you to do is I want you to show me your working. All right. Now, obviously, my working. Sorry, girls. My working has got lots of arrows in. You don't need to put the arrows, but you could just write on a line what you've done. And I want to just see that middle step of working every time, so I can definitely see what you've multiplied or added or divided. Okay, so try to show me at least 2 steps, because they are 2-step equations. Okay, all right. Submit your work to me like you did yesterday. I'll have a look at it and I'll give you feedback and I'll mark it in. So just have a check at it over the weekend or at some point next week. Okay. Next week we might look at doing some Google Hangouts so we can go over some new things. I hope you're all okay. Take care, girls. See you later.